of the reasons that we have a lot of rotational type of issues concerning vegetables nowadays is because of the overall issues we have with a lot of herbicide-resistant weeds. Beginning in the 1990s, we started using a lot of glyphosate-resistant crops, and we went away from using pre-emergent type of residual herbicides. However, with the advent of a lot of residual resistant weeds in the early 2000s and into the mid-2000s, we had to start relying on a lot of residual herbicides that we'd used in the past. And with the use of these residual herbicides came an increase in the amount of overall problems with respect to carryover issues. And these carryover issues range from having slight to minor injury in crops to complete failure. With respect to carryover, herbicides are often used in crop for specific weed control issues, and we have a lot of problems with herbicides going to the following crops. With respect to carryover, overall growers must be very cognizant of the types of rotational crops that they're going to plant. For example, if they're going to be planting certain specific vegetables, they need to be very, very careful about what herbicides they use preceding that vegetable. Specifically, they need to look at the label and see what the rotational restrictions are, because those rotational restrictions can be highly variable depending upon which herbicide they use. For example, Cadre, a mazipic herbicide, can have rotational restrictions that can go out to 40 months with certain crops. And so if they don't follow those rotational restrictions very clearly, they can have crop failure as part of the issue. Overall, my overall take from this is that they need to be cognizant of the types of herbicides that they're applying. They need to know what their rotational crops are going to be. They need to follow the label specifically, and they need to have some idea of what type of herbicide chemistry they're dealing with. Some of the older chemistries that we deal with, Stanley went over a great deal of herbicides that are now registered specifically for certain crops. And even though they're registered for specific crops, those rotational restrictions can play a great deal into the scenario where you're doing the rotation.